I love reading because it gives you an escape to a place that is entirely your own and unique to you. This is The Lamplighters by Emma Stonex. I love this book because I bought it on my honeymoon and it was set about half a mile from where I stayed. So 7 years up and they're 100 feet above sea level. In the living room there's a television set and 3 worn air-cooled armchairs. On the floor by the biggest, they're guessing it's the principal keeper's. It's a cup with an inch of cold tea in the bottom. Behind the tube is the flue coming from the downstairs. Perhaps the PK could come down to them now. He's been up there in the lantern, cleaning the mantle. The others are there too, out on the gallery. Sorry they didn't hear. The wall clock here reads the same stop time, 9:15. That's it. They're gone. Feathery clouds advance on the horizon. The breeze freshens, switching direction, flicking ridges of white onto the jumping waves. It's as if those keepers were never here in the first place. That, or they climbed to the top and simply flew away.
I love reading because it transports you to another world, but also I love the emotional connection that you get with the characters and the places they're set. I have picked Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone because this was the introduction to a world that I would love to live in. And it also makes me happy to read it, so I'll still go back and read it now. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was a director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large moustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on the neighbours. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion, there was no finer boy anywhere.
Reading is so important to me because literature teaches us a lot about life, history and culture. Frankenstein is my favourite book and it matters a lot to me because it has a great creation story, elements of the Gothic genre which I really enjoy reading, and it contains satirical elements that teaches us about the shortcomings of humanity. My favourite quote is, "There was none among the myriads of men who existed who would pity or assist me, and should I feel kindness towards my enemies? No, from that moment I declared everlasting war against the species, and more than all, against him who had forced me and sent me forth to this insupportable misery."
I have always loved reading, and on a day like today where it's pouring with rain in Manchester, I can pick up a book and I can go to any part of the world and meet new people. So the book that I have chosen is Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. I've always loved Agatha Christie because she writes about murder plots and I love trying to guess who did the murder. So this one, Death on the Nile, which is about to come out as a film, is obviously set in Egypt, and I'm just going to read you a little bit about what Agatha Christie says about her book. The book has a lot of characters and a very elaborately worked out plot. I think the central situation is intriguing and has dramatic possibilities, and the 3 characters seem to be real and alive to me. This is one of my favourite foreign travel books, and if detective stories are escape literature, the reader can escape to sunny skies and blue water, as well as to crime in the confines of an armchair.
I love reading for lots of different reasons, but largely because it's an insight into different people's thoughts and feelings on different things and different subjects. The book I'm going to read from today is called To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is one of the first books I ever studied at school, and it was one of those moments where you suddenly get into reading and really like it, like something just clicks and you go from being forced to read to actually really enjoying it. And I enjoyed it because it was from a children's perspective on a topic that is usually adult. So I'm going to read you the first part of this. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jem got his arm badly broken at the elbow. When it healed, and Jem's fears of never being able to play football were assuaged, he was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was somewhat shorter than his right, and when he stood or walked, the back of his hand was at right angles to his body, his thumb parallel to his thigh. He couldn't have cared less, so long as he could pass and punt.
I like to read because it gives me an opportunity to put myself in other people's shoes, to imagine what the world looks like from the perspective of people all across the world in different scenarios, even if they are super fantastical too. I'm currently chosen a book called Dr. Jekylls Mirror by William Hussey, which is a fantastical look at the two sides of a human being, and explores the different personalities one person can have. Pain razed its way through the thin organic glue which held Sam's skin to his skull. Sharp electrical charges fizzed there, and at their prompting, muscles spasmed and his appearance began to change. He saw it all in the mirror, the chipping back of his nose until it became a snout, the nostrils shaped like ragged teardrops, the horrible crack of his jaw as it lunged forward into a simian underbite, the pigment of his blue-green eyes darkening until they were almost as black as the pupil. When he opened his mouth to scream, a snowfall of teeth fell from his bloated lips, and in their place he saw new teeth, brown and blunt, rising out and up of the bleeding gums.
I like reading because it's a chance to escape from reality. I love finding out about different characters and living a world through them. The book I chose is The Tiger in the Well by Philip Pullman. I like this book because it's about a strong, feisty female character who... I'll do so well. Shall I carry on?
Just start again.
Thank you. I enjoy reading because it's a chance to escape from reality and a chance to find out about different characters and how they live. The book I've chosen is The Tiger in the Well by Philip Pullman. I enjoy this book because it has a really strong, feisty female character as the lead, and she challenges a lot of barriers of the time. "I don't believe it," she said, hardly in control of her voice. She thrust the paper at Sarah Jane and stood up blindly. While Sarah Jane looked at it, Sally walked to the end of the orchard, plucked a twig off the apple tree and shredded it to pieces. She felt as if someone had crept into her life and befouled everything in sight. That anyone could write such a pack of filthy lies about her. But it was impossible. She couldn't take it in. There was worse to come. She heard Sarah Jane gasp and turn quickly. Sarah Jane was holding out the last section of the document. It was headed Prayer. Sally took it and sat down. She felt unable to stand. The page read, "The petitioner therefore prays that the said marriage be dissolved, that the petitioner be granted the custody of the child, Harriet Rosa, with immediate effect."